Okay, I think we're ready to get started. Welcome to the Strongpoint Fundamentals webinar series. Today we're going to talk about core change management. My name is Andrea Sorensen, and I'm the head of marketing here at Strongpoint. Thank you very much for making time to spend with us today. We've had a lot of people coming back to this series, so far I would say there's been value for attendees. We're going to be mindful of your time, and we expect to take maybe about 45 minutes or so for this presentation. There's some really great content we've prepared for you, and of course, as always, we're going to just talk a little bit about what the subject is, why it's important, and then move into a product demo, a direct product demo. So let's get started. I'm very happy to introduce Valerie Callahan and Ramona Henningham. Both are customer success consultants. Odds are anybody on this call has likely worked with either one of them. They're super savvy in Strongpoint systems, so you're in great hands. I'm going to hand this over to Valerie right now, and she'll get you started. Thanks. Go for it, Valerie.
Thank you, everybody, for joining. Again, today we're going to be going through core change management. What does that look like in terms of the agenda of what we'll be covering? Where we are in the process. This is to give you a general idea of how our change management implementation processes go and the sessions we have with customers to assist them going live with the change management process. We'll also cover what is involved in the stages of implementation, the elements of change management, the reporting, understanding what makes a compliant window, a compliant change in the system, as well as a non-compliant change. When those non-compliant changes happen, we'll also walk through how to resolve those, and then I will go into a walkthrough in one of our demo NetSuite accounts. So first off, I'd like to show you a sample timeline of change management implementations. So the material we'll be covering today is what we consider our introduction, and that's usually an hour-and-a-half session. Again, since we'll be doing it in a demo account, we definitely won't take up an hour-and-a-half of your time. We follow that with customers on a functional review, which includes additional reporting, some change manager dashboards that help you manage the process. And then again, we're always there to hold your hand, help you get ready for go live by helping you configure your production, continuing to have question and answer sessions, and then as you go live, close out any testing logs that may have been created. All right, in terms of stages of the implementation, a little bit more detail about those sessions. So again, for today, what we're going to be doing is going through the change management scenarios in our sandbox, our demo account. We'll be setting up a policy. For the demo purposes today, we'll be doing that on scripted objects. Also, what those IT approvals look like for those change requests on those scripted objects. We'll go through the reporting and how to resolve a non-compliant change. As mentioned, follow-up sessions to this, which won't be necessarily covered on this webinar, but for everybody to know that these are offered. We have Q&A sessions in the next one, change management dashboards, reporting on bundles, and what the differences are in the reporting for material versus a non-material change. We help you validate the spidering documentation of your production account. And then as the process moves along, we continue to help you monitor your policy, validate that you understand the change log documentation in Sandbox. We also walk you through more use case based automated compliant and non-compliant change reporting, and assist you in resolving those non-compliant changes. And again, we continue monitoring and making sure that if you do require separate policies to be set up for different objects, we help you do that as well. So why implement Strongpoint closed loop change management? So the key aspects are the policies. These are providing you with a sensible, understandable policy that helps you mitigate risk in your account. Demonstrable, so reporting that demonstrates your policies are being followed and how you're remedying exceptions. Traceable, the who, what, when, and why of changes that happen. So traceable to a specific approval and deployment event. Recoverable, I'll mention this a few times, but Strongpoint does not offer you an undo button. However, data is constantly being generated regarding the changes in the form of change logs on the customization records, which we reviewed in our orientation meeting, and this helps you have the information sufficient to reverse the changes. Reportable, so reporting available by policy type, by approval type, the process or object type, any metrics that you can probably think of, we have a report for. And what are those elements of the change management process? So first off, the change and approval policy, and we'll walk through this in a few moments, how to set that up. This helps you automate your non-compliance analysis. It sets your IT approvers and critical object-specific policies if needed. So additional policies. Strongpoint change request. This again automates the compliance level analysis. Your change record is linked directly to your customization record, and this provides you with your approval management and your change impact analysis. So that impact analysis that we've seen in other menus on the Strongpoint tool are also available from the change request. Excuse me, the Strongpoint customization record itself. So this is your automated customized documentation. It also holds your impact analysis and gives you access to the ERD view. And the change log, again, back to that undo button that I keep mentioning. This is where all your change tracking is logged and your diff tracking. So what the object was, what the object has become, and allows you to possibly reverse the changes if needed. For today's demo, we'll be focusing on 2 levels of compliance. So the change level called log only. This is when the system automatically logs the change. A good example of this would be for safe searches. You don't necessarily want your users having to submit a change request for their own private saved search. So the changes made to those searches are logged, but as log only. So not requiring a change request and not looking for a compliant window. And then the change request itself. So changes to objects that require an approved change request that has not been set to a completed status. So we'll talk about that again a little bit more in a few moments, that compliant window. So a lot of the times we speak about change requests for scripted objects. These are the objects that have the biggest risk of breaking something in your account should they be changed without the proper approvals. In terms of reporting that we'll see today, we'll mostly be looking at the top 3. So that open non-compliant changes report. So those non-compliant changes will happen. This displays those, and the action to be taken is to resolve those open non-compliant changes. Mostly done by a change manager role to track changes that require action. Once they've been able to resolve that open non-compliant change, that change is then moved to the resolved non-compliant changes report. So this is the one that auditors will be reviewing. Your change managers will also be reviewing to make sure that the proper steps have been taken to resolve that non-compliant change. The compliant changes report. So this is the one where the changes to the objects have taken the correct path, taken the correct approvals, or received the correct approvals and been made with an open change request existing. Some other reports available in more detail in some of our other sessions are the manage bundle changes. So changes that have been initiated by a manage bundle update. So not necessarily something you have control over, but do still want to be able to report on. The same for the non-material changes and the platform changes. So changes that were initiated by NetSuite. So again, you have no control over them, but you would like to be able to track those in your system and report on them if necessary. The what changed report. So this is a complete view of everything that's changed in the system, excluding those non-material changes. Consolidated change by type. So that's a version of the what's changed report, but grouped by object type. And lastly, the approval override report. So in the change management module, we do set a policy that requires certain approvers. However, situations may arise where those approvers are not available. So anybody with administrator access in the NetSuite system is able to override that approval and approve a change request. What does that mean? That is not something we want to encourage as a best practice. This is, should those approvers be on vacation out of the office and that change request needs to be approved, an administrator can do that. However, that is all reported on this approval override report. So we talk about a compliant change window. What does that mean? A change happens in your system. The Strongpoint spider runs and it detects that change and creates a change log. The system then analyzes that change log and looks at what change level is required. If it is log only, it will be marked as compliant, and that's the end of your process. If that change level requires a change request, the system will look and see, is there an approved and not completed change request? If yes, again, that change will be marked as compliant, and that will be the end of the process. However, if there is no approved and not completed change request, that change will be flagged as non-compliant and moved to your open non-compliant change report. So again, that compliance window requires two things: an approved and not completed change request. And I'll walk through this in a demonstration shortly to give you a better sense of what that means. When those non-compliant changes happen, there is action to be taken. So based on that change log and that classification, the change log appearing on the open non-compliant change report requires somebody to review that and then document, resolve, and close out that change log. What happens then? That will move to the resolved non-compliant change report. And that's the end of that process. So things to note: at this point, Strongpoint does not stop anybody with the appropriate permissions from making changes. It's a monitoring system. So if you have somebody who has a role in NetSuite allowing them to make changes, we do not stop them. Also, once a change log is marked as non-compliant, it will always be non-compliant. So again, you can resolve that and move it to your resolved non-compliant changes report. However, it will always be flagged as a non-compliant change. As we move to the next slide, I'm going to navigate to our demo account and start walking you through this, and I will speak to this as we go through the demonstration. Again, this is a demo account, so you may see some data that looks a little bit more crowded than your accounts, but bear with me, and if any questions come up, please feel free to let me know. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to go in and we're going to set up our our policy. How do we do that? We navigate to the Strongpoint menu, the change management submenu, and change and approval policy. In this case, as I mentioned, this is a demo account, so there is some setup already in there. But out of the box in your account, what you'll see when you go in here is a default policy. That will already be in there for you with all these change levels marked to log changes only. For the purpose of this demo, I'll talk through what all of these mean. So scripted objects, so these are anything: scripts, workflows, any object upon which a script or workflow depends, mandatory fields on forms, or searches using a field from a managed bundle as a criteria, or any object dependent on an object from a managed bundle. So all those fall into the scripted objects category, and these are the ones we recommend from the get-go be set to a change request, as you do want to be able to keep a close eye on changes to any of those objects. Searches and reports, those are searches and reports not flagged as controls or scripted. Controls, again, searches and other objects that function as controls. This is something you can set in the control subtab of the customization record. Web-related changes, so changes to objects affecting web objects. Other objects, what does this mean? These are changes to other objects such as fields, forms, and lists that are not scripted. For the purpose of this demo, you'll note that I have this set to change request, as when I walk through, I'm going to try and do this in the most efficient way possible to give you guys an idea of how the process works. NetSuite setup changes. NetSuite changes to setup objects including accounting lists, segments, enabled features and preferences. User roles, those are changes to permissions and other aspects of user roles. User role assignments, changes to the assignments of those user roles to users. User role related objects, objects that are used as default views, forms, and searches, and search results by any role. So when we start off in the process, we do recommend that the only thing that be set to change requests at the beginning is the scripted objects. This allows you, over the course of the initial setup, to review all those changes on the compliant and non-compliant change report, and then make decisions on what else you may feel needs a change request. The next thing I'll do is I'll go over to the IT policies subtab. Again, you can see that I have two approvers set here. So something I'd like to mention, the preliminary approver is optional. However, a final approver is mandatory. So you can have a two-step process for your approvals or a one-step process, whatever suits the needs of your organization. Once this is set up, we can go ahead and save this policy. And what I'm going to go through now is a walkthrough. I'll be creating a change request showing you the approval on that change request, and then we'll go in and create a new entity field and how that would be reflected in the system amongst the different reports. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go create my change request. So that's again under change management, change request, and new. All right, so the first thing we see at the top, the mandatory field, is name. When you enter the name, we recommend that you enter as much detail as possible about the change you're making, or if it's related to a bigger project, something that will identify this easily when you have to review this later on. For today, I'm going to go ahead and I'm not doing a workflow. Change type. So this is a list of predefined values that we've provided for you. In your account, you would also have the option to add new values if need be, if you feel that there's anything missing. So in this case, I'm going to put this as a minor change. Down below, if I'm using another ticketing system, I have the option to enter that external change request number as well as the link. For what we're doing today, I'm going to go ahead and put this in progress. And now, again, down below here, this is where I'm going to enter a description of the change I'm about to make. So you'll add as much detailed information about what the change is, what it entails, what it's used for, the impact analysis if you've run it, if it's a plan change, the name of the object and the script ID, basically as much as possible. I won't make you guys watch me type all that out, so I will write something very generic like description here. And now for the next thing I'm going to do, if I was making a change to an existing object, I would be able to find that up here in this box called customizations. I can search on that by name and pull up all my custom objects, or I can do the drop-down list, which also shows me a list of all those custom objects that I can select from. And again, you can select multiple at once. For the purposes of today's demo, I'm going to go ahead and create a new field. So in this case, that customization doesn't exist yet, so I'm going to enter that under proposed customization. And I'm going to create an entity field. Again, the script ID, you may have already created this in your sandbox account, tested it, and now you're moving it to production, so you may already have that script ID. So that's a little bit the idea behind that one. I'm going to copy that just so I remember. Down below, once I'm ready and I've entered all my information and I'm ready to send this change request on its way to the approvers I've set, I'm going to go ahead and move that into a pending approval status. And once I save that, what we'll see over here is that it's pulled in the default policy. It's requiring a change request. Pending approval is the status I've already set. Down here, it shows me my mandated approver. So in this case, I have a two-step process, and the next approver being Leo, with the reason here in case I forget. So now, because I'm not Leo or Nick, I'm going to go ahead and do an approval override on this change request. So I'm going to go ahead and edit that.
Valerie, before you do that, just a quick question.
Sure.
You mentioned that when you were selecting the customization records, you could do multiples, but obviously you can do one as well. It doesn't require multiples?
Correct. You can either select multiple existing customizations here, or if I wanted to do multiple proposed customizations, if I was creating more than one object at once, I would be able to enter those here, comma separated.
Oh, okay. Thank you. I think
You're
that answers the question. Thanks.
All right. So again, if I was a mandated approver, I'd have a button up here that I could click that would say approve. Since I'm not a mandated approver, but I am an administrator, I'm going to go ahead and override that approval. How do I do that? I scroll down and I can put that into an approved status. And once I save that, I've met the criteria for my compliant change window. So my completion status is not completed and it's an approved change request. What I do want to show you just quickly, since I mentioned it on my opening slides. Again, what I've done is not a best practice. We don't recommend that this become a day-to-day, but we do have an approval override report. so that you can monitor when people are not following the process. And so we can see my first change up here that I did do an approval override. All right, so now that I have my compliant window open, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to create my new object. So I'm going to go to customizations, and for what I'm doing, I'm going to create a new custom entity. And I'm going to use that same script ID that I put into my proposed customization. I don't need to write custom entity or cust entity because that will add itself once I save this. And I'm going to add some text here. I'm going to apply this to a project record, and I'm going to go ahead and save my new custom entity. And now what I can do, most of you do have everything set up in your system. So you'll see on your home dashboards, we've set up an auto spider portlet to keep your account up to date. This does take a couple of hours for the changes to reflect on new objects that are created. We do offer you another option, which is called ReSpider Now. And so I'm going to go ahead and click that. And what this is doing is providing a real-time documentation of the new object I've just created. So as these beautiful gears spin, the system is searching for a matching script ID that I've entered under proposed customization and looking for that in custom objects to see if anything matches.
This is where we would play Jeopardy music.
Correct, yes. Seems longer when everybody's watching, but honestly, it only should take a few moments, hopefully. And there we go. So as that refreshes, something to note, we entered that script ID under proposed customization. And once those gears stopped spinning and did their real-time documentation, found the corresponding script ID, that was moved up into customizations because it is existing. And so now if I open this in a new tab, before I move on, just so you guys can see, Strongpoint went ahead, found that custom object and created the customization record associated to it. And in real time, under the change log subtab, I have my first log of the object being created. Because the object was created while I had my compliant window open, the other thing I can see right away is my first report. So this is my favorite report. I hope it's yours too. It's the compliant changes report. And we see right up here at the top, my first compliant change for the day was created, required a change request for that same field that we created. So again, this is your report that you'll come and refer to. Just see what's going on in your system. You know, some of these will be log changes only. And even the ones that do require change requests, you're hoping that everything gets done in the right order and is done in a compliant window. All right. So now that I've done that, I'm going to go back to my custom entity field and I'm going to make a change to it. So I'm going to add more description. I'm going to change that. So we're going to make that integer number. And I'm going to apply that to a contact record as well. I'm going to go ahead and save that. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to click the ReSpider Now button right away. This is normally where I quiz customers to find out if they think this will be a compliant or non-compliant change. So because you guys are all on mute, I'll go ahead and spoil the surprise for you that this will be a compliant change as well. Why is that? Our window is still open. So the change request is not yet completed and it's still in approved state. So once that does its magic, we go back to our customization record and refresh that. We can see right away our change log is now created for the second edit we've made to that. In the slide portion of the presentation, I spoke about not having an undo button. Still the case. A few minutes later, there is no undo button. However, what we do see on this change log in plain English, the change we made to the field. So we modified the entity field, we changed the parent, we changed the description, and we changed the type. And down here for the more techie people, we have the diff view, which shows us the that previously it was not applied to a contact and now it is. The description's changed, the type has changed. Again, down here, the type. And then if you really want to get very technical, we have all the XML here. So I just wanted to show you that quickly. The next thing I'm going to do now is I'm going to go ahead and edit my change requests. So my changes are done. I'm satisfied. Everything's gone the way it's supposed to. And I'm going to move this into a completed status. Go ahead and save my change request now. And we're going to make one more change to this item. Let's change that one more time. Go with text area. Let's apply that to one more thing. Maybe take it off of a customer and let's save that. Let's cancel out of that and try it one more time. There we go. And now I have two options. I can either go back to my change request to ReSpider and see those changes reflected immediately. Alternatively, now that I've closed my change request, I may not have that open anymore, so I can go to my customization record for the same object, and I have the same button available. So same button, different place. You can hum some Jeopardy music to yourselves. And again, now once that is refreshed, I now have a third change log. All right, so now that we closed our window, where does this change log appear in terms of reporting? Again, under change management, open non-compliant changes. We have our non-compliant change up here. Since we closed our window, we completed that change request, meaning that any changes happening afterwards would be considered non-compliant. So this is the report that your change managers will come in and review, whether it be weekly, bi-weekly, monthly, whatever the process is that you determine, and action needs to be taken to resolve these change requests. So an easy way to do that, I can edit right from this report. And I open that same change log, the same one we saw on the customization record. Again, as you can see in edit mode, even though I'm in edit mode, I cannot uncheck this non-compliant checkbox. So your integrity is there no matter what. If a non-compliant change happens, it remains non-compliant. However, it can be resolved. And how do I do that? You enter your description, your resolution. You put in enough explanation detail about what happened, how you'll resolve it, that an auditor would be satisfied looking at this, that they have a clear indication of what happened and how you will avoid it happening in future. And once I'm satisfied with that, I can go ahead and mark this as closed. I save that change log. And you can see right away it's disappeared off of my open non-compliant changes result and is now under my resolve non-compliant changes. And we can see it right here. I have a quick view of the description I entered, the system explanation of what happened. So again, that diff view, and the status being closed. So in terms of what I wanted to walk you guys through today, that covers it. I do have one more slide that I'd like to finish with. All right, so this is my nice slide to recap what I just walked you through. The blue representing the user action and the orange representing the Strongpoint actions. So what did I do? I created a change request. I attached my customization to that change request. In my case, I created a brand new one. I approved that change request, opening my compliant window, and deployed those changes. As soon as that change request was completed, that closed my compliant window. And what did Strongpoint do while all that was happening? As we started the change management process, the continuous monitoring did its magic, applied the policy, created that first customization, created the customization record and attached those change logs as we made changes to it, and updated my reporting in real time, allowing me to review both my compliant and non-compliant changes and resolve those non-compliant changes. And that's everything from my side.
Okay, well, I'm not seeing any new questions coming in. So thanks everybody and enjoy the rest of your day.